All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here, Mark P Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Bitcoin video analysis. So let's get this started quickly. I want to spend an hour here. I know I usually go a little bit over, but I'm going to do my best to keep it at that time. Okay. So if you're new to the stream, welcome. If you'd like me to analyze a particular chart or a market, now would be a good time to share it in the chat. So the way this is going to work is the first thing is I'm going to run through the economic calendar very quickly. Then I'm going to do my Bitcoin analysis to see what kind of expectations are reasonable for the coming week. And then I will get to your questions. Okay, so please be patient. Also, when you put something in the channel, I may not see it for a little while. Okay, so just something to keep in mind because it takes me a while to get through all the comments and stuff like that. Okay, so now would be a good time. Also, I'm streaming on TradingView here. So TradingView people, be a good time to get some questions in there as well. Okay, so with that being said, let's get this thing started. Also, if you'd like to share what city or what country you are from, that's always a fun fact. I'm streaming from the greater New York City area, also known as Northern New Jersey. All right, and that explains why I sound like this. All right, I got to come up with a new joke for that. Anyway, all right, so let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Let's get rid of that. All right, hey everyone. So you guys should be able to see me. Just say some quick hellos. All right, I see Kai, Daryl, Alice. Hey, good to see you. I'm sorry, Alex, Wedge. All right, my regulars, Peter, James, Winter. Okay, cool. Got my Romanians here. Got Will from London. All right, cool. All right, so let's get this thing going because we have some interesting things here to talk about. I shared my Bitcoin analysis on TradingView yesterday, and I talked about the fake out that we had over the previous week, and I want to talk about that again here. Now, before I get into that and we talk about the Bitcoin chart, one thing I want to say here, let me adjust my microphone. Hold on a second. All right, that should be better. What I want to talk about is, first of all, let's get to the economic calendar out of the way. Then I want to just touch on an educational topic. But first thing is, what do we have this week as far as economic events, right? First thing we have is tomorrow, which is Tuesday. We have the Australian rate statement. Okay, Bank of Australia has their interest rate statement. Could be important for forex pairs that are crossed with the Aussie dollar. Okay, on Wednesday, which is the 8th, we don't have anything important. On Thursday, which is the 9th, we have the ECB. Okay, the European Central Bank. They have their rate announcement and their press conference. That certainly can have an effect on things because the euro, the euro is pretty big, right? So something to keep an eye on if you're in any of those type of forex pairs. And then on Friday, we have for the US, we have CPI, which is an inflationary number that can have an effect on things. In previous history, it wasn't really a big deal, but today, because inflation is a more sensitive topic, it can have an effect on things like the S&P. So you want to be aware of that. So make sure you check the timestamps on those events. Those are the only ones worth talking about. Also, on Friday, there's the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. That really is not a big deal. All right. So those are the main things to just keep an eye on for this week. I'd say the most important out of all of those is probably the CPI number on Friday. All right. Anyway, the reason why we want to know economic information or scheduled reports like that is to be aware of what type of risk we are facing. If there's a major report like an FOMC meeting or a testimony from the Fed chairman, it can create an unexpected range expansion, and you want to be prepared for that. You're not going to know which way it's going to go. You just want to be able to manage the risk, first identify the risk, and then be prepared to manage it. Or, and one way to do that is get out of your positions, right? Or lighten your positions going into that if you're on broader time frame, if you're using broader time frame strategies like swing trades. That's why I mentioned that. All right, let's move on. Now, before I get into Bitcoin here, I want to just talk about one educational thing very quick. In these streams, I like to try to touch on an educational topic so that you can come away with this with some kind of, maybe some new knowledge or some kind of wisdom that you weren't aware of before. Now, in this situation here, I want to talk a little bit more about the macro view and how that applies, because I've mentioned macro variables before, but you see, everyone wants things like, everyone wants to look at things at face value or in absolutes, and you can't do that. You can't find like a trade signal because of a macro variable. Macro variables that I'm referring to here are like macroeconomic variables, things like interest rates, things like the dollar, the bond market, okay? Things like that can have a broader effect on other markets, right? Now, so how does that play into a trade idea? That's what I want to touch on real quick here, because a trade idea is like the smallest part of the whole thing. People are only focused on the trade idea because they, of course, you want to make money. That's human nature. I understand. But if you don't consider the context, which is what the macro fundamentals provide, then it's hard to gauge the potential, right, and the risk. And gauging those two factors are what make taking the trade, a worthwhile or not. Like that's what's going to weigh your decision. Okay, is this trade worthwhile? And it helps you gauge the probability of success for that particular trade. Now, let me give you an example. I'll use Bitcoin as an example before we get into the actual analysis. All right, now we know in this situation right now, the current macroeconomic environment is negative. There are a lot of negatives. We have rising rates still. We have oil, which has been pretty much, rising, right? And that's going to have an effect on rates because the Fed is going to have to fight that, right? Okay, even if you don't know that, rates are still rising, and that's one big macro variable that weighs, that puts a lot of bearish weight on things, on everything, okay? Like the S&P. Now, wherever the S&P goes, generally, Bitcoin's going to go with it, okay? Bitcoin right now is messing around, not doing much, but if there's a more dramatic sell-off, the correlations kick in, and then this thing tends to follow. So that's why that macro variable is such an important thing. Now, how does that apply to a trade? So let's say you're a breakout trader and you're a swing trader, okay? Forget day trades, because day trades, the macro variable is not as important because you're only looking for small bites, okay? Trade expectations. That's another thing you need to be very, very aware of. Each time frame has its own expectations. But let's say you're in this for swing trades, right? Kind of like that. That's the strategy that I employ. And you're faced with a potential breakout. All right, you're faced with a potential bullish breakout. So let's draw that like right here. Let's say there's a bullish breakout that's about to take place. Now, here's where the macro variables come into play. If this thing's in the process of breaking out and you're thinking of a swing trade, right? The question is, what is the potential that this thing follows through? Well, the macro variables are weighing against it. Taking a breakout trade to begin with against the broader structure, which is another component of context, means you have a very low probability that that thing's going to follow through, right? So why would you take it? It's a very aggressive type of trade that has a very small chance of playing out. If you know this, if you know it's a low chance, why would you take it? Now, some people, because I like to gamble. Okay, that's an acceptable answer. But understand, your probability is very low. Now, if you look at the flip side of that, on the short side, because we have macroeconomic variables that are more bearish, and you get a sell signal in this resistance zone, which I've been talking about for weeks now, that's in line with the macroeconomic variable. The potential on the short side is greater. All right, now that's a conservative perspective. An aggressive perspective or an aggressive situation would be, what if Bitcoin is pushing 28K? Or what if Bitcoin is pushing 26K? All right, what if it's doing that and it's trying to push that lower low? And you're faced with a potential bearish breakout. Yes, it's still very risky. It's a high risk trade because you're shorting into a support. But what are the chances of follow through? They're greater because the macroeconomic variables are behind it. That's how you use them. So if you're into being aggressive, the place to do it would be that, right? If you're going to take a breakout trade on the short side, not on the long side, because there's a greater chance that you get follow through on the short side because of the environment. That's how you gauge that. Just like a year ago, the macroeconomic environment favored the long side. All right. But so you have to know that when you're gauging these things, you can't just look for everything from a chart. A chart can provide useful information, but you have to know what to compare it to, and you have to know the context. On top of all that, You need to know what type of trade strategy you're employing. You can't just feel it out. Like, well, I feel like a day trade right now. You can't do that. You need to know all of that in advance. Like, are you looking for day trades consistently? Are you looking for swing trades consistently? In the beginning, that could be very confusing because you're not sure. That's why I tell people, start with the larger time frames. Forget day trades. Yeah, there's a lot of action and people think that there's all this money to be made. That's a dream. If you're a beginner or you're relatively new, and when I say beginner, I mean less than a couple of years of experience, forget day trades, especially in this market, because things change too fast and you're not going to be able to manage your risk or your expectations fast enough. I mean, it needs to be like this. It needs to be like an instant. You have to know when something is wrong and you have to act on it right away. And I'm not talking about reacting to, just random news or information. You have to understand from a technical perspective and momentum, like what's right and what's wrong. And you need to recognize that right away, okay? And you need to know how your risk is going to be controlled. And all that needs to be done before you're in the trade. All right, anyway, so that's like the educational side note that I just wanted to mention real quick. Let me know if you have questions about that. Let's get into the Bitcoin analysis right now. So I want to ask you all a question, make this a little bit more interactive. How many of you think Bitcoin is a long right now? And don't worry about, I'm not going to like make fun of you or whatever if we don't have the same view, but just be honest. How many people think Bitcoin is a long right now? And the next question you have to ask yourself is, if you think it's a long, why? Why do you think it's a long? Now, if you think it's a long because there's one green candle, well, it's not enough information to really justify a long. Why? Because of all that context I just talked about, okay? The context. So let's get into that. And let me see what people are saying. Anyone saying? I don't see any answers yet, but sometimes it takes a little while for the answers to show up. Anyway, let me go over here. Not a long on the large. Okay, Armin got it. Okay, all right. So only one person answered the question. It's okay. I just wanted to throw that out really quick. Again, if you think Bitcoin is a long or a short or whatever, it'd be interesting to see. Now, let me get into the analysis. So like I was saying, if you read my trading view report, I emphasized again this zone right here, shorting, not a long. I am in long. Okay, those are some of the answers on trading view. All right, well, shorting, that's what the structure says. All right, being long, if it's a day trade, that's one thing. Okay, there's plenty of opportunity on the day trade side. It doesn't matter long or short. You just have to understand the momentum. But on the swing trade or on the larger time frame, long is not favored, not by me, by the market. Okay, market doesn't care what I think. The structure tells us a lot. And this area right here is a lower high. So all the activity that occurs below this area is meaningless on the larger time frame in terms of longs. It's meaningless. So it doesn't matter if there's a higher low right here. It doesn't matter if it looks like it's going to make a higher high. It doesn't matter if price breaks into this zone and sits there for a little while. It doesn't mean anything. On top of all that, we have an environment that doesn't favor any sustainable rally, okay? So until that changes, you're more likely to get a fake out. That's the thing. And that's the way I'm viewing this. It's very simple. If Bitcoin cannot clear 34K to 36K, if it cannot do that, it's a short. And I don't short Bitcoin. So it's not like I'm sitting here trying to, encourage people to take my side. I'm flat. I'm not going to go long and I'm not going to go short. But, some people that are interested in shorts, you may have another selling opportunity in this zone between 34 and 36K if price can get up there and give you the sell signal. Now, some people may be confused and say, well, but isn't that a higher low? Yeah, but we're not in a trend. We're not in a bullish trend. This zone in here between 28 and 32K, that's not a bullish trend. It's a consolidation. So what occurs inside of it is pretty meaningless. It's just random noise. Don't be fooled by that, okay? The probability still favors shorts, even though we have a nice bullish candle right now. You can't get sucked into that. You can't get lured in. All the fake gurus are going to make a big deal. Bitcoin's going back to 100,000, all that other nonsense. there's no way to know, especially off of one single little green candle. This is meaningless. So keep your eye on the levels for this week. Again, this is your zone that you're watching. If you get a sell signal in there, that's a potential short for a swing trade. If price can clear that zone, if anything can happen, all right, just because the structure is bearish right now doesn't mean it won't change. Things change, but there's no way to know with any degree of certainty that this will change. So that's why when people ask me, what's your opinion? Where's Bitcoin going to be in a year? I have no idea. I have no opinions. The market tells me what to think. And right now, the market says bearish. If price closes up through here and price does something like that, maybe not in that straight of a line, but if price can close decisively above that resistance, then I will start to adjust. And I will then start to look for support levels to hold in that scenario. But right now, until we have that, I expect support levels to break, not hold, even though we have this noise, this useless nonsense here. So my point here in this stream, if you take anything away from it, my point is this is a consolidation. Don't make any long-term assessments based on noise. Day trade is another story. I'm not talking about day trades, but what is likely to happen this week, again, is sell signal up in this area and then retest of 28K, right? And if 28K breaks, which is what the structure favors, then you're looking at the support zone, the next support zone, which is 25, the 24 to 26K area. If it gets in there, it'll be interesting to see how it behaves. If it cleans right through it, you're looking at 20K. All right. Now, again, I don't know these numbers that I'm giving you. There's no way to know if we're going to get that this week. It's if the market delivers those scenarios. I want you to be prepared. All right. The market may not go that way. The market may break higher. You need to be prepared for both scenarios. Some people, oh, he's just saying the market's going to go higher or lower. I mean, what good is that? You need to be prepared. It's not about knowing where the market's going to go next. It's about being prepared for what it does when it makes its move. Let the market make the move. Let the market figure it out, not you. Okay? That's where beginners make their first mistake. The first question, so where do you think the market's going to go next? Wrong question. Okay? The question is, what do you think the market's going to do after it gets to where it's going next? Right? The B move. The A move, let it do. The B move is what you want to be prepared for. The B move may be a support. It may be a resistance. You need to be prepared in the context of the overall situation. Context favors shorts. Okay? As of now. That can change, but as of right now, that's the way it looks. All right, so that's my Bitcoin analysis. Let me know if you have any questions about that. And by the way, everything that I just said about Bitcoin applies to all the garbage altcoins that follow it. I mean, talk about garbage and people getting stuck in worthless assets. They're worthless. And we're in an environment that does not support speculative assets. I just saw somewhere, I think it was in an email, something about tech jobs or fintech jobs. There was very low demand for them or something like that. Is that a surprise in a rising rate environment? I mean, who hires fintech people? Highly speculative small companies, right? Penny stock type of companies or small caps, because those are the ones with large potential. But no money goes into those in this environment. There is no speculative money. The Fed is fighting it. The Fed is taking money out. Okay, so until that changes, high growth is really not the way to go right now. It will change at some point. Okay, but it's not there now. So that's how I'm trying to tie in the macro view with the short-term view. All right, and how that macro view can help you gauge expectations. All right, so let me start getting to your questions because I talk too much about stuff, and I could probably reduce a lot of the stuff that I say. So let me jump around here. Let's see what we got. All right, so Kai, can you talk about Amber Heard? I'm not. Is that the Johnny Depp situation? I don't know. I'm really talk about out of tune with like mainstream stuff. I'm probably the most out of tune person there is. I have no idea what's going on. But I heard a little something about that. I'm wondering if that's the same thing. Anyway, okay, Nasdaq. All right, so let's take a look. So Nasdaq, right? Tech heavy Nasdaq, NSXUSD. This is something I watch very closely. Okay, this is the Nasdaq 100. Right, this is the CFD version. It's like a reflection of the futures. And look what's going on here. Okay, I mean today, what? It's only up like 12 points. That's nothing. This might as well be flat or negative. I mean, it's the same thing. Look where it turned. Right, you see that? This is not a surprise. It's a resistance area. It's an old support, new resistance. Now, just a few days ago, right, the Nasdaq was rallying. The market bottom was in. All other kinds of nonsense. People were saying there's no market bottom in nonsense. That's all nonsense. There's no way to know. All right. All I know is we stopped at a resistance and we turned. We gave it back just as quickly as we touched it. That's a bearish sign. So as far as the week ahead, and we have that inflationary number coming out on Friday, which can certainly be a negative, right, for these things. This thing is poised to go lower. That's what it looks like. This is a failed high off of a resistance. So I wouldn't be long tech stocks, that's for sure. If you're an investor, what do you do? In fact, someone recently asked me about investing. And, I explained to this person who's completely new, has no idea how any of this works. She was actually very anxious and felt pressured because of whatever news that she read, that she was going to miss out on something. I said, never, ever make a trade decision when you're feeling that way. And as far as timing the stock market, she was looking to invest in a stock. I said, you got all the time in the world. There's no hurry because this thing is likely to go lower. Okay. And then I explained dollar cost averaging and all that stuff. So anyway, NASDAQ looks weak. I would be looking for a bearish move this week based on this, unless something changes. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about these potential scenarios. There's always a bullish and bearish scenario. What would a bullish scenario be? Well, we get a green candle that looks like that, okay, and takes out these highs. That would be bullish, and that would establish the current low as a higher low, right? That's what that would be at that point. But that's not there right now, and we don't know if the market will deliver that. The environment certainly doesn't favor that type of move, okay? And if we got something like that, I would still be very suspicious. I would not be, all optimistic until we see some other changes in other areas. Temporary positive moves are meaningless in this environment, right? So keep that in mind. Anyway, as of now, we start taking out these lows, 12.5, right? That 12.5 area on NASDAQ, that, possible test of 12,000. What's this high over here? 12,053, right there. So that's within reason for this week, okay? And that's going to carry all the tech stocks with it, all right? All your favorite tech stocks. So I hope that answers your question. Let me jump over to TradingView over here. Hey, people. So I see people typing stuff. I'll get to it. So really, I appreciate your participation. Let me see if I can scroll here. This thing is giving me a hard time. Hold on. Let me just do this. Okay, there we go. There's my scroll bar. All right. So, hey, Stian, how are you? Could you have a look at B Pro USDT? Sure. B Pro. Let's take a look. B Pro USDT. What's the story with that? B Pro. Okay, I don't have that one. I have B Pro wrapped in ETH. Maybe that's what you're talking about on Uniswap. I don't know. It's not giving me a USDT. Do I have the right symbol in there? Oh, no, here we go. Sorry. I typed it in wrong. Okay, here it is on Kucoin. All right, so let's take a look. Wow, it looks like garbage. I was going to use another word, but I'm trying to keep it clean here. All right, so let's take a look. A lot of these altcoins are, I'll tell you, they are at attractive levels. This is the weekly chart. They're certainly not at highs. So it's certainly an interesting place, right? But the environment is far from supportive. So believe it or not, these things can go lower. So swing trades are out of the question. Wouldn't even think about swing trades for these. As far as investments or position trades, well, if you believe in the project, that's really the only thing you have is for getting into something, because you're in an environment that doesn't support these and you can get good prices now. Keep in mind, how much is this thing? Well, it's 0017. All right, it can go lower, a lot lower. in this environment. I mean, it can test these lows here. What is this? 0.00038. I mean, it's so sub penny type of levels there. And this thing at one time was as high as what is this here? It was as high as 4 cents, and it's now like sub penny. So these things are going nowhere anytime soon. If you want to pick some up because you believe in whatever it is that they're promising, you know, it's your lottery ticket, right? Because that's what these are. These are all lottery tickets. I mean, look at this. You can't judge a chart like this on a technical basis, because this is all going to be based on hype or fundamentals. Really, there's no technical thing you can do with this here, right? And especially since it's, you know, whatever B Pro network, whatever it is, if Bitcoin can't rally, you can forget about these. Right? That's just a function of the environment. So yeah, you're going to get these little buy signals in here, but they're meaningless. Technical analysis is much more helpful when markets are moving, right? When they're in a trend, or maybe they're in some type of wider range at least. But this is, forget it, right? I mean, look at this. So I can't really say much about that. Use the environmental factors as your guide. I would anticipate a lower low, right? Even though there's a technical situation right there, it doesn't mean much in this environment. I hope that helps. Coins, I was gonna say stock. Coins like B Pro will probably be more interesting when we have an environment where rates are going lower. Speaking of rates, let's just take a look real quick, right? When I talk about macro, this is what you should be looking at, okay? This is the 10-year note. If you don't know what this is or how it works, you should not be risking any money in anything, all right? To be honest with you, just being honest. People get all caught up in this. The bond market's rallying. The stock market's going to turn out. Bond market is not rallying. This means rates are going back. They're going higher, right? This is the inverse of the yield, okay? Look at this. Does this look bullish to you? Let's take a look at a weekly chart. Does that look bullish to you? I hope you say no. Does that look bullish to you? That right there is a very bearish thing for highly speculative assets like garbage altcoins. Okay, just so you know. All right, so thank you for asking, Steen. Let me just jump around here. What else do I got? Okay, hold on. Can you tell us the risks at 30K is much lower than 69K? Okay, here we go. This is a good question. Okay, now you're asking about 200 moving average. Listen, the 200 moving average is a conventional. The EMA is a conventional thing that like everyone will rely on for Bitcoin. Please don't get mixed up with that nonsense. It's a moving average. It's after the fact. You have to look the general structure. The moving average is not going to give you the kind of context that I'm talking about. Okay. So in this situation, as far as the risk of breaking 30K, like I said before, the environment is bearish. So the chances of breaking back below 30K or 28K are much higher. I can't put an exact number on that, but until we start to see some changes in the environment, I have very little optimism for highly speculative assets such as Bitcoin, right? So I don't care what the chart says here. As long as the chart is respecting the resistances, which is what it should do in this type of environment, as long as it's doing that, then I have to believe, right? This is the resistance zone. I have to believe that macro view is still intact. Okay, until this changes somehow and proves itself, that's the way I'll go. So that's why I'm bearish. And I anticipate a test of 30K. I anticipate a test of 25K. I don't know if we're going to get that this week, but it's certainly, like I said before, more of a place to think about selling or shorting than buying. All right, so good question. Yeah, stay away from those moving averages. Don't use those for decisions unless, you know, we're in a nice clean-cut trend and it's testing the moving average again, right? That can be somewhat helpful, but if you're looking at it on smaller time frames, especially, do not get mixed up. I will start dollar cost averaging at 25 and 22K. Yeah, I mean that's not a bad idea. Especially if you're going in for the really long-term view, you know, the 5-year view or the 10-year view. If you're going to dollar cost average, Bitcoin would certainly be a good one to choose since it's the leader of the entire space. Okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, but a garbage altcoin, that's a lottery ticket. You know why I say that? if anyone thinks back, if anyone was involved back when we had the first Bitcoin rally to 20K, okay, we're talking 2017 to 2018, all the garbage altcoins that rallied with it at that time, when we had the second rally going into what, 2021 or whatever, when we peaked at 69K, the altcoins were not the same ones that were rallying. So basically, they're like the flavor of the month or flavor of the week type of thing. Who knows which altcoins are going to be the popular ones in the next round? That's a lottery ticket. And that may be a function of who's the better marketer, because that's what this game is about. Okay. If you haven't realized it yet, you're in the most deceptive game ever. This is worse than selling used cars. Okay. Altcoins are worse than selling used cars. At least a used car is a product that you can drive around for a little while. Okay. The altcoin, you're just throwing money out the window. So just understand that. And this entire financial industry, I watched some videos over the previous few days that just had me, I just couldn't believe what I was watching. Okay. That people believe some of these fake gurus are so fake and they still have a good following. What does that tell you? I mean, they're beyond fake. They have no industry credentials. They're not even 20 years old, some of these people. Okay. Like I couldn't believe it that someone would watch a teenager giving financial advice. Like I couldn't believe that people would actually, and if you look at the comments, oh, you're doing such a great job. Oh, I'm going to buy this. Oh, this person has no clue what's going on in the world, and you're taking financial advice. I mean, that just goes to show, right, how the lack of understanding and how deceptive this business is. And it doesn't make sense when you think of it from a rational perspective, but you have to go back and think, well, who said investors are rational? Investors are irrational. That's how markets work. So of all people, I should not be surprised that people would follow some teenager giving them financial advice, teenager who has no industry experience, no experience talking about the topic that this person was talking about, yet this person had enormous number of followers compared to me, right? And meanwhile, I have over 20 years of experience, right? And I'm trying to give people perspective and prepare them for how to manage risk. I'm trying to do things the right way. Anyway, I'm not complaining. My point is irrational herd mentality. It's everywhere. All right, let me move along here. All right, so let's see what we got. Hope as well. Thank you for your, okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, GMT was hot thing a month ago, but now what do you think about it? Okay, GMT, yes, I remember that. Let's take a look. GMT, I remember people asking me about GMT, right? Okay, it basically turned to garbage. One thing I talked about, and we talked about this here on my streams, because I was actually watching GMT as a potential swing trade when it was pulling back. But once it started clearing these supports, I said, forget it, not interested anymore, right? Now, what do I think about this now? First of all, you could have actually been prepared for this. And I talk about this all the time if you can count waves, because there are 5 clear waves here. This structure is a 5-wave structure. If you can count 5 waves, the party is usually over, okay? And there are 5 waves in here. So if you were buying into that wave 5, thinking that it's just getting started, because some fake guru told you it's just getting started, you are most likely buying the top. Now, of course, you don't know it at the time because it looks like that. Oh, I'm buying the breakout. Right. Why is my GMT pulling back? George, you told me to buy it. Okay, that's my Seinfeld impression for today. I know I don't sound like him, but hopefully you're laughing. Now, what do I think of GMT? Well, it's an altcoin. It's garbage. It's probably going to fail like the others, right? That's the fundamental side, or the macroeconomic side, because it's a highly speculative asset. The market environment does not support this, number one. Number two, you have a consolidation right here, right? It's a lower high type of consolidation. Now, we can argue that it's a higher low relative to this structure here. Yes, we can argue that. This is a higher low relative to this low. But this is not the environment for betting on something like this. So swing trades are out of the question. As far as position trades, well, again, like anything else, if you're going to dollar cost average it to something like this, you're certainly not buying the high. There's a little mini high or low developing here. But even with that structure in place, Bitcoin, again, is not poised to go higher. So any little bump that you get in something like this is not likely to follow through. So that's what you have to keep in mind, okay? So with something like this, if you're really interested in something like this, look at the lows, okay? What's the low here? 81 cents. Look at the lows and see if you can test them again or test lower. A good area for aggressive swing trades would be a failed low below 81 cents if you're looking for that area. But as far as trends and new trends starting, you got a long way to go for all of these, okay? Again, this is not a leader. It's a follower. So use Bitcoin as your guide. When Bitcoin breaks its resistances, then something like this will probably start putting a better structure together. Now, just because, let me give you an example here real quick. So let's say this higher low, starts to go somewhere. You don't buy it and you feel bad. I missed it. And Bitcoin changes, right? Bitcoin breaks its resistance and Bitcoin starts to show a bullish structure. And you look at this thing and it's up here. I missed it. Well, no, you haven't missed anything, because if the structure is going to sustain itself as it should, and the environment should support that, then buying a pullback is still a valid strategy in that situation, right? So let it break out, let it pull back. These old resistances in that scenario will become a support level. So again, it's not about buying the best price or buying the bottom. It's about taking risk that makes sense in terms of the potential and the environment, okay? What type of risk does the environment favor? The environment doesn't favor long positions in these things right now, even though there may be buy signals developing. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so I hope that helps. Let me jump over to the other chat here. Hey, Alex. All right, that was a response from, okay, I guess YouTube is a little bit behind. Talk about a delay. Okay, in New Smyrna Beach, raining on the beach. Oh, well, Bill, that's okay. Rains sometimes. USD CLP, Chilean peso. Wow, that's an exotic one. Bill, what have you been up to? Chilean peso. Maybe Bill has like a friend in Chile or something. I'm not going to get into that. All right, so US dollar, Chilean peso. Here's one I don't look at very often. It's interesting. So what do we see here? Well, there's clearly a double top here. Now, this is USD CLP, right? USD first, meaning this is a reflection of the US dollar, right? We know the dollar is generally strong. So I would be focused here on this structure because it's bullish. And we're in an environment that's supportive of the dollar, okay? Now, with that being said, we have this turnaround taking place here, okay? This actually is a reversal. You had this pattern. I'm not going to talk about the 3-candle pattern because it really doesn't really matter, but that is a reversal type of pattern. Okay, that's cool. So certainly I would be looking for longs. It's coming off of a level. It's coming off of an area. It's an old resistance, which is obviously acting as a support. So what can you do with something like this? Well, you can take the break of the high, right? Which would be, what is that? 823.40, is that right? These are in Chilean pesos, right? So 823 pesos. If it breaks that high, that can be taken as a long signal. Your risk would be defined by this low. Now, if you don't want to use the large candle as your risk parameter, which is understandable, then you can wait for something like an inside bar, which is likely to develop in a situation like this, okay? Or some kind of, maybe you get like a tiny little pullback or something. But I mean, in this type of situation, right, you take a look at that. Let's take a look at the dollar, because the US dollar is obviously going to affect this thing. So we can take a look at the dollar index. I mean, look at the dollar index turning around, right? Bullish. Even though we had this, everyone thought, oh, the dollar is selling off. Hey, we're going to have inflation again. No, the Fed's still backing the strong dollar, right? So this is all bullish. You have that going with you. So if you take that buy signal on the peso, again, you can use that larger candle to manage your risk. You can also use this dollar index chart as a gauge as well. This thing takes out 102.73, right? You're likely to get some follow through there. So it's not a bad idea. I like it. What was that again? USD CLP. It's not a bad idea. You also have some potential in here of testing this high area. May not get up there, but at least its potential, and the environment supports it. So you have at least that going for you. All right. So one way to measure potential. So thank you for asking. USD interesting pair. Thank you for bringing that up. Hey, Peter, good to see you. All right, James, New Zealand. Okay, New Zealand, NZD. This thing's a pain. New Zealand dollar is a real pain. I had a trade in it not too long ago. Got stopped out of it. This thing, it's like a lousy mover. Okay, it's like the baby version of the Australian dollar. Now, let's take a look here. This is the Aussie, by the way, the Aussie and the New Zealand dollars have a tendency to follow the S&P. All right. Now, if you notice, look at this double top inside bar off of this is an old support back here, which is now a new resistance. You see that? So that right there calls for a short. Kramer, let's get short. So there's actually a sell signal in play right now because it took out the low of the inside bar. Now, keep in mind, this pair is a pain. And also, I think Australia has their rate announcement tomorrow. Tomorrow, you have to check the time on that. But if that announcement in their press conference comes out bearish for this thing, then you have some potential here of testing the low. Even if you reach the midpoint, there's some potential. So I like the idea. I would certainly be looking for a short on that, on the Forex pair. Although, let's take a look at the Aussie. The Aussie may be a better choice because the Aussie moves. I mean, look at this. It's not exactly the same, but you see the similarity, okay? They move in a similar way. Look at this old support back here. Now, it's not precise. Look, it broke through, but not for long. You see that? And it turns right away. So just something to keep in mind. You are facing the rate announcement, right? Which is like their version of the FOMC. So if this technical pattern holds, there's some potential on the short side. If the rate announcement comes out the other way, this thing can squeeze the other way on you. So that's your risk, right? There's no way to know in advance which way that's going to go. You have to measure your risk. There's plenty of reward potential. So it makes sense. Okay, New Zealand against US dollar. Certainly, that would be one that I'd be looking for a short. All right, so thank you for mentioning that. That may be a trade of the week right there, by the way. Thank you for mentioning that. Hey, Winter, good to see you. Will from London. All right, let me jump over to the other side here. What do you think? And what about, okay, so I'm only going to do one symbol at a time. So ask me again about Solana and XMR because I have so many questions here. And I want to get these, I want to try to answer as many as I can. Let's see. All right, Bergs, there's no confirmation for a long yet. Okay, I'm long. Oh, that was my Bitcoin question. Okay, good answer, by the way. There is no confirmation for a long. All right, I'm long since 29,500. All right, Astrock, I don't know if that's a swing trade, or I would imagine that's a swing trade. That's a good price, but keep in mind, if you here, and this is a common mistake, is people don't know how to gauge the potential. If you think that this thing's going to run to 40K, the chances of that are low. So you have to look at it from probability, not from how much money you're making, right? So usually smaller profit targets have a higher probability, naturally, a higher probability of being reached. Something to keep in mind. When greed gets in the way, oh, this thing is going to go to 40K. I can feel it. And then it turns, and now it goes back to break even. I should have took my profit at 31K, but I couldn't tell. I'm missing something. Let me get another oscillator, right? So just something to keep in mind. The more you expect, the lower probability you're facing. All right. Short as of today. So that's interesting. There's no sell signal. You're near a location. You're not even in the short location yet, but there's no sell signal either. So yeah, stepping in front of that is a very risky thing to do. Even though we're in an environment that supports the short side, stepping in front is extreme. Okay. So anyway, of all macro movements is that the Fed balance sheet is only minus 25, and in previous recessions they cut off their balance. Yeah, I mean the Fed, the Fed is in a tough spot, and they put themselves in that spot. I don't understand the Fed, and I don't pretend to understand. I don't pretend to know what I think they're doing. The Federal Reserve is very strange because they come out with, 6 months ago, a year ago, inflation is transitory. That's my Powell impression. Inflation transitory. And then he comes out months after and says, I made a mistake, right? I don't understand. How does someone in that position, with all the resources that they have, the labor resources, the financial resources, they're the head of the most powerful bank in the world, how do they make a mistake when someone with no resources, like me, can see certain things? Like, yes, there is inflation. A lot of people could see. How come they can't see? So I have to believe that it's politically motivated, because they have to know. There's no way that they're that mindless, or that they're that, incompetent. There's no way. So they have to be playing political games. Okay. I mean, that's the only explanation I come up with. I could be wrong about that too, but I hope they're playing political games, because if they're that off, if they're that out of touch, we got problems. All right. Still a losing trade open. Okay. Open for 2/3, waiting to get out of it. I entered around 35K. Oh yeah, I remember you. Yeah. So, again, you're at the mercy of the market, managing risk. Okay. And at this moment, hey, things are trying to improve for you. So let it ride until it turns the other way, right? There's no sell signal there. If this thing can work its way back into that, into that range that I talked about here, this resistance zone, if it can work its way back in here, perhaps you can reduce your risk even further. But don't make the mistake of saying, well, I'm going to wait till it gets back to 35K and then I'm going to get out. It may not get there. Okay. It may not. Use the market, right, as your gauge. There's no sell signal here. So at this moment, I would say give it a chance. Now back here, if we talked about this a week ago or a few days ago, this was a sell signal. And I wouldn't know what to tell you in that situation. It's like, perhaps you should unload some more, because what if this thing keeps going? Okay, it hasn't kept going, and it's only working out that way out of chance for you, right? You're playing a slot machine, and you have to understand that that's the game you're playing. There's no way to know, right? At that time, all right, at this time, there was no way to know that this was coming next. This is just random noise, and it's going to an area where it can turn hard. It can turn hard there if it turns. So just keep that in mind. All right. Right now it's going your way. Ride with it until it gives you a hard time. But you should at least be reducing risk when it starts pushing a high, right? That's a good time to start reducing, maybe not your whole position, but just take some more off in case it turns the wrong way. All right. Hey, Will. Okay, let me jump over to the chat. Let's so I want to get more viewers. Oh yeah, appreciate that, Kai. Yeah, people, if you want to press the like button, that always helps. So people have been trying to get in touch with me, and I apologize. I've been working very hard on some updates that I have to do, and it's extremely time consuming. So that's why I've been out of touch, but I have to get these things done. I can't really say much about that because of house rules over here. But just so you know, if you send me a message or an email, it may take me a little while to get back to you. Okay, so I apologize, and I appreciate your patience. All right, but yeah, if you could press the like button on TradingView and over here on YouTube, that would be cool. Okay, Rhino. Hey, Rhino from Turkey. How are you? Erhan. All right, I got my Turkish following here. All right, Turkish people. I got my Romanians, my Turkish. I got my Londoners. All right, getting some global followers. Greetings from Cape Town, South Africa. All right, my Elon Musk people, South Africa. So what else we got here? Gotham. Hey, Gotham from the Bay Area. How are you? All right, let me jump over to the chat. Let me see what else we got. Again, I appreciate everyone's patience. Bitcoin dominance is at 40. Okay, that doesn't really, not very helpful. Bitcoin dominance, that stuff is just, an extra layer of complexity that doesn't really help at all. Can you look at Tesla? Okay. All right. So let's take a look. TSLA. Now keep in mind, Tesla is a market stock. It's going to be affected by the S&P and the Nasdaq, right? And there's a lot of hype that goes on with this thing too, but it can't get away from the S&P. This thing, look at this thing. The line's been on my chart for quite some time, this line, right? It was a support. It's no longer a support. It broke, and it is now a resistance, as you can see. Not only that, but the other day, it was looking promising, right? Just what was that, a couple of days ago? Oh, it's going to break out. It's going to break out. We're going to go back to 3,000 or whatever. Oh, that's Amazon, right? Whatever. And you get this. So keep in mind, when you're looking at something like this, depend less on this chart and look more at the Nasdaq or the S&P, because that's really going to get where you're going to get your timing from, because this thing usually doesn't do its own thing anymore. All right, so as far as that goes, you're in the same situation. That Nasdaq we looked at earlier was setting up for a short, and if that becomes a short, where do you think this is going to go? Think it's going to rally? So I would, if anything, I wouldn't be long. Okay, I don't like to short individual stocks. I'd rather do the index. So you know, I don't know what to tell you there. Unless you're using options, you can do that with options if you know what you're doing with options. You're looking at touching this low. All right, 658. What is that? No, 623. I'm sorry. That's a potential bearish target. 623 or whatever, 628, whatever I just said. And it's also possible, because this is a lower high, it's possible that it takes it out and makes the lower low. If the Nasdaq and S&P, like for example, if S&P takes out 3,800 or 3,950 or whatever that low is, where do you think this is going to go? So keep that in mind. Thank you for asking about Tesla. Let me jump along here. David, thanks for your, okay, no problem. To help us learn through this tough game. You're making, oh, I appreciate that, because sometimes I feel like, man, no one listens to what I say anyway. Can you look at Link? So, okay, yeah, I know Link. Yeah, Link. Look, Link, solid project. They're all solid projects. Okay, I'm not making fun of you or anything, but Polkadot, Link. Do you remember Luna? Anyway, solid project. Let's take a look at this in the bigger picture. Again, this is going to be, of course, it's not a leader. It's going to be Bitcoin dependent, right? It's been consolidating. So this is going to suck some people in. Think, oh, it's turning around. There's a bottom. There's no bottom here if Bitcoin is not bottoming yet. All right. And Bitcoin still has a ways to go before it proves anything. So go to the weekly chart. Right. Let's take a look. Now, again, you're certainly not buying highs. Right. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. You're not buying highs. If we were at highs, I'd be telling you you're nuts for buying highs. If you go back to my previous videos, right, where these things were at highs, and you see what I was saying, oh, how was he able to know? I had no idea that we were going to be at these prices. All I knew was you're buying highs, and highs are extremely risky, especially in these type of things, right? Anyway, but now we're here at lows. So we're in the opposite situation. Okay, good for if you're interested in dollar cost averaging, if you believe in these things, right? You said it's a solid project, so obviously you believe in it. So you have that going for you. But here's the thing. The environment, like I said before with the other one, with GMT, the environment is not in favor of these things, right? So if you want a dollar cost average, you can't justify going bigger, right? So skew smaller. At one time, I was saying when these things pull back to some pretty amazing prices, you can justify skewing bigger, right? But I was assuming that the environment was going to stay the same. The environment is not. The environment is unfavorable. So until that changes, you want to buy into this, buy a small amount that if this thing gets cut in half, what's this thing right now? 782. So if it goes to 350, you'll be like, all right, well, you know, my $200 investment is now a $100 investment. No big deal. I can handle that, right? But don't be putting in thousands and thousands of dollars and thinking, oh, I got the bottom. I'm going to be a millionaire by next week. This is not the time to be doing that, okay? So just something to keep in mind. You want a dollar cost average, you set yourself up a schedule, and over like 10 months or over a year, you make one purchase each month for a small amount until these things start to improve. So again, attractive prices, but not a good environment. And what's the signal going to be on the good environment? Again, I keep telling everyone, right? The signal will come from here, the bond market. What do bonds have to do with altcoins? They have nothing to do with each other. Yes, they do, because bonds are where speculative money comes from. All that free money, right? Because companies can borrow money cheaper, they hire more people, okay? And then all these people, they get raises, they get promotions, now they have all this extra money. Oh, I'm going to buy altcoins with it, right? That's where it comes from, the speculative froth. Eventually, it works its way. That's the effect of interest rates, okay? It takes time. It's not like a one-day type of thing. This right here says interest rates are rising. So no free money is what that means. No cheap money, no speculative froth. So coins like Link and all these other junk coins are going to stay junk until the speculative run comes back. And it will come back at some point, just not now. Also, okay, like I said before, the next run, whenever that starts, and again, I think it would signal from the Fed, or this chart at least would turn and give us a more positive view. And by the way, when the chart turns, it's still going to take some time for that money to catch up to the market. All right. Like when I say some time, we're talking like 5 months type of thing. All right. So something to keep in mind, but at least it'll give you an idea. We don't know if the new flavors of the run are going to be Link. All right. It may, just like back in the day, like I was saying before, IOTA and all those other ones were like the big ones back then. IOTA was garbage in the second run, but it was supposed to do this and that, and it was great on paper, and blah 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 blah. So who knows what the new ones will be? Again, function of marketing, right? So get in with some good marketers, and maybe you'll find out. All right. So good question. Let me see what else. Can you have a look? All right. So look at Tesla. Hey, I got another guy from Turkey. All right. Yeah. You know, I went to Istanbul once, my Turkish people. I actually visited Istanbul. It was back when I used to work for the Russians, and they had a party in Istanbul, believe it or not. That was a long time ago. All right. Hello from New Zealand. All right. You got a New Zealander. Okay, cool. Thanks for your analysis. Could you make an article about investment for Bitcoin, like in 2 to 3 years future? Okay, so I can talk about that real quick. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin is a function of interest rates as well. Bitcoin, just like the altcoins, is a highly speculative instrument. So when you're thinking about investment for multi-year, okay, a couple of years out, certainly low prices. This is a low price on Bitcoin, right? So yes, that makes sense in terms of potential investment, just like all the altcoins, but the environment is not with you, like I just said. So if you're going to invest, invest small. Don't put a lot of money at risk. A common mistake is people have, I have $10,000 and they throw it all in at one price. No, that exposes all of your money, right? Your entire $10,000 portfolio at one price. You average it in, right? And, in terms of like Bitcoin and the rest of them, some of these coins are going to have more potential to move than others. And that game is going to be a function of how many coins are, the coin supply and all that other stuff. So when speculative time comes back, of course, you're going to want to find the coins that have the lowest floats, if you can find those. And that doesn't mean that other higher float coins won't rally. It's just, it depends on who can attract the most attention. So Bitcoin is a leader in the space. Anything long-term, sure. I'm long-term on Bitcoin bullish because I believe in the whole fundamental purpose of Bitcoin and all that other stuff. But until that speculative money comes back, I suspect Bitcoin can test lower prices. So over the next couple of years, there's no way to know until we have some changes in the Fed. I don't know where Bitcoin is going to be in a couple of years. There's no way to know. If the Fed is still raising rates, which I doubt, but if they're still doing that in a couple of years, Bitcoin's probably not going to be higher, okay? Keep in mind, we have a couple of important events taking place in the next couple of years here. All right, we have the midterm elections coming up soon, right? And when they come and there's a change in the balance of power, that can affect things. How? Well, if they get rid of the Fed chairman and replace him with someone else, and that person has another type of policy, then we can see some changes. But there's no way to know that now, and there's no way a chart can tell you now. All we know is we're near a low. That's all we know, and the environment favors lower lows until that changes. You understand? So political changes can have an effect of the economic cycle, and we're not there yet. So we have to see how the balance of power changes. It will change the perception of the market. And of course, we have a presidential election coming up in a couple of years. That can also have a big change, okay? Depends on who gets into power and their economic policies and the perception of their economic policies. So far, things haven't been improving in this country. Anyway, all right, enough of that. So let's see what else we got here. So that was Link. All right, so that was the Bitcoin question. I hope that helps. Can you, all right, what was this question here? Hold on, just catching up. Can you check Mount, what is that? Mount HYMC? Okay, can you, All right, I don't know what that is. Let's see, HYMC. I'm guessing that's a stock. All right, let's see. How much is this thing? $1.34. It's one of these. Okay. So real quick, 1 week chart. So look, this is a hype stock, right? Anyway, it's similar to an altcoin. If it's not a penny or whatever, I mean, it's more than a penny stock, but you understand what I'm saying. Is this thing over the counter? No, it's a Nasdaq stock. Okay. So, I mean, look at this. Obviously, all this movement is probably relative to hype. Look at this. So you can't really use technicals to help you here when it's like this. If you want to wait for technicals, you want to wait for this thing to change its structure at least. I mean, you don't even have that. You have a potential higher low, but this is not like any type of industry leader. I've never heard of them. I guess it's a mining stock, I guess, or it's a holding company. So I guess they own mines. I don't know what their story is, but you're playing a fundamental game here. All right. And technicals aren't going to help you too much. If you want to use the technicals, wait for the resistance to break. Perhaps this thing starts to turn around and establishes a new trend. But, metals and mining, they require a lot of investment. Interest rates are higher. Money's more expensive to borrow. I don't know how that's going to affect something like this. Probably not in a positive way. Something to keep in mind. All right, people like all bullish with metals. I don't know why they're bullish with metals when we have a rising dollar. But the dollar is just in a basket of other currencies. Doesn't matter. Okay, the dollar's rising and rates are rising. I don't know how metals are going to do well in that environment either. Okay, metals are anti-inflationary. A rising dollar is also anti-inflationary. Rising rates are also anti-inflationary. So if you can't have all of them going together, right? If rates are rising, the metals, I don't know how they're gonna do well. They do well when there's too many dollars floating around. Now, all that inflation that we've had recently, you would think gold should be at 5,000, okay, or anything with mining. Gold never even got there. So I don't know what that's not exactly a good sign. What do you think of RYCEY? Okay, let's take a look. That obviously that's going to be a cheap one. RYCEY. Let's see. How much is this thing? Okay, again, dollar, basically like $1.20. Let's go to the weekly chart. Again, look at this. Look at this. Garbage. All right. These are, compare them to altcoins. Highly speculative growth stocks. Okay. Is this thing on the Nasdaq? No, it's OTC. Right. So this is like a penny stock. And yeah, you're near these lows. You're possibly making lower highs, but technical analysis isn't going to be very useful here. Let me show you. Let me just point something out. You could have used the chart and said, well, look, double bottom. All right, breakout. Yeah, all right. This thing's reversed its trend. No, it hasn't. Right? Back to lower highs. So the environment's going to affect stuff like this. I don't know what you're doing with this, if you're thinking of investing or swing trades, I would not bother with swing trades. These moves are going to be very tough to deal with. And to make any worthwhile money, obviously you're going to have to take a larger position in these things. So in this type of situation, I mean, if you want to judge it from a technical perspective, you have an old support, which is likely to act as a new resistance here, potential lower high developing. I wouldn't go near it. Okay, so anyway, it's Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce Holdings. That's an OTC stock. All right. Okay, anyway, that's interesting. Recently, Elon Musk and Coinbase made an announcement about hiring pause. Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, I had no idea Coinbase made a similar announcement. I don't read any news. I pay no attention to news. I heard about Elon Musk, though. Uncertainty in the market and a possible recession. What are your thoughts about current situation? Okay, yeah, right. Just look at the bonds. Okay. No, it's okay. Just look at the bonds, right? Look, all this bearish talk, right? Elon Musk he said super bad, right? He used that term super bad. The economy, blah, blah, blah. First of all, understand something. People like him, he's a businessman, right? He's not looking out for your best interests. So if anyone knows markets, it's him. Okay, the guy invented PayPal. So if anyone knows markets and money, it's him. And he also knows that he can affect markets just by talking, just like the Fed chairman, right? He can He can say things and the markets will react to what he says. So something to keep in mind. If he comes out and says something like that, do you think he's doing it for your benefit? Do you think he's trying to help the world out? No, he's doing that by making electric cars. He's doing his good deeds, his good things, right? He's doing that in that area, helping the environment. He's not going to help you financially though. So if he says super bad and he's and blah 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 blah, you have to be suspect of that, because why would he share that publicly, right? Why would he want to put his stock and his other companies in a tougher position if everyone's going to sell them because he came out and said, oh, the economy sucks, right? Maybe he's buying. All right, maybe things aren't as bad as he says. They exaggerate these things so that he scares people out of positions. It's an old trick. So just something to keep in mind. Any of these big names, big name investor, big fund manager, this guy, that analyst, blah, 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 when they come out and they give public information like that, you must be suspect of it. All right. I would think that maybe he's trying to accumulate a large position and he needs people to sell. I don't know, but that's my suspicion when someone like that says something like that. So I put the bond market chart up here because this is a reflection of the world. This is a reflection of things to come. Okay. Lower high, we get a lower low on the bonds. Rates are rising. That's a negative for everything. So in a negative environment, more bearish catalysts are within reason. Just like in a positive environment, we had nothing but bullish catalysts. And any negative news that came out was shrugged off. Now we're in the opposite, right? Any positive news that comes out will probably get shrugged off quickly or not have much of an effect, while negative news is where all the action is going to be until this chart changes. Okay? So I hope that helps. All right. Okay. 10-year bonds hitting 8%. It's possible. Anything is possible. See, that's why I go into this with no opinions. I let this chart tell me, right? That's where my macro begins, with this chart. Okay. Let me see what else we got here. So, okay. From Antalya. Oh, another Turkish guy. All right. David. Hey, David Gonzalez. All right. From Miami. Yeah, I like Miami. I definitely like Miami. Miami Beach. Okay. Let me see what else we got here. I like Miami too, but it's been a while since I've been there. David. Okay. Armin, can you take a look at gold? Right. So gold, XAUUSD. So let's go. That's an old chart. I have to erase that trade. It's old. Let's go to the daily chart. So gold, I've been suspect of gold and I've been bearish on it. I haven't called any trades on gold, but someone had asked me about a gold short. And just like, the euro, I suspect gold is going to be a short, okay? Because of the strong dollar. And I was just talking about the metals before, right? Look at this. This looks very similar to that New Zealand situation. In fact, this is a sell signal in gold. Off of this rectangle here is an old support, which is now, no surprise, new resistance, and it's a failed high off of this new resistance. Okay, this is a sell signal. You have the red candle, took out the low. That low was 1847. We are now to 1842. Is that right? 1847. So there's a sell signal in play. Gold is a short right now. I don't know how far that's going to follow through, but potential can be measured by this area here, right? That low. It's likely gold tests that low. Will it break the low? The environment supports that if the dollar starts pushing highs. Your risk, of course, will be measured by this high, 1874 on gold, that resistance area. In fact, if you take that short, you're probably going to have to put the stop a little higher. So, what are you looking at? Typical risk on gold is about 30 points, 25 to 30 points. Which means to justify that, you need to make at least 30 points, right, on a swing trade. So is that reasonable here? If you test the low at 1786, yeah, that's reasonable. Okay, so I mean that's my outlook on gold from a swing trade perspective. Thank you for asking. All right, how am I doing with time? Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here in a couple of minutes because again I'm going over, and I always try to keep this an hour, and I never do because I talk too much. I like to talk. All right, so let me see what else we got. Let me see what else I can answer here. Can you show the 5 waves? Well, just Google that. All right. Elliott wave. Just Google Elliott wave. Google impulse. Impulse Elliott wave. Elliott wave impulse structure, right? You'll see the 5 waves. could you please look at dollar CAD? Well, I'm getting a lot of Forex requests. I usually don't get so many Forex requests. Let's take a look. Dollar Canadian. Again, we're looking at the dollar. Okay, dollar versus Canadian. So this is a nice example. Look at this consolidation, right? That's your range high. Here, well, let me show you something here. Hold on. Let me get rid of that. So look, you have your range low in here, and you have your range high over here. Now, this is where things get tricky. Look, it broke out, but not for long, right? And that's why you have to be very careful with these ranges and breakouts, and why I'm so not into breakout trades. So anyway, you had the failed high. You're pulling back. This thing is range bound. There's really no trend here. All right. On the short term, you can argue there's a bearish structure going on here, bearish momentum. So if you're looking for shorts, okay, I can see that. Your next short signal would be the break of this bullish candle low, but that's aggressive. And here's why. You're going back into the range low. So you're better off, like if you want to short something in Forex, I mean, you're better off going with gold. You're better off going with maybe New Zealand dollar. Look where you are here on this thing, right? You're in this area here. This can work, but just look at what you're facing. Okay, it's a lot less potential, and you're near that range low, right? So if that range holds, you're selling right into that. But I would certainly be looking for, if I was going to do anything with this, it would be on the short side. Otherwise, wait for the range low, for maybe you get a possible swing trade long out of that. Again, temporary, because you're playing the dollar here. Let's just take a look at the euro real quick, because yeah, look at the euro. Not too surprised about this. The euro's been tricky, but you know, with the face of the stronger dollar, I would suspect the euro is a short as well. All right. And I said that the week before too. And as you can see, it's been struggling to really play out. And we have that ECB rate announcement on what, Thursday? So keep that in mind. Freeloader, gold, silver. Can you comment on the hypothetical negative CPI print and its effect on these, or whether the effect of, okay, so again, it depends on how that comes out and how the market interprets it. I have no idea how the market will interpret that number. It could come out really good and it could come out really bad. That doesn't matter. Don't waste your time or your energy trying to figure that logic out. Let the market do that, because that's what the market does, okay? It'll price in whatever variables it has to price in, and then you'll see the reaction. Go by that, not by, well, you know, I think if based on this and that. That's not going to help you, because you're applying logic to something where irrational behavior can just come in and take over, right? That random nature of the irrational behavior. So as far as that CPI print, yeah, these things are going to be sensitive. Obviously, anything crossed with the dollar is going to be sensitive. So like as far as gold and silver goes, all I can do is go by the signal. There's a signal to go short. That can change very quickly if the CPI comes out favorable or unfavorable. So just something to keep in mind. There's no way to know in advance. You have to either be willing to take that risk going into it or not. Okay. I mean, after the fact, if the CPI number comes out and it's bearish, you know, it's bullish for the dollar, and gold pulls back 30 points or 40 points. Oh, wow, I made a nice trade there. Well, the CPI happened to go your way. Okay. There's no way to know that in advance. You have to look at the risk, right? What is the potential loss? And are you willing to take that loss? Yes or no? If you're unsure, don't take it, okay? Because you're facing something that can change in an instant. All right. And that's really the whole key to this, is being having a strong grasp on the idea that things can change in an instant for any reason, right? That's a random environment. And you can't go into this environment thinking, oh, I just need some more information. You always have to make decisions in the face of incomplete information, like a poker player. And there's going to be times when you're wrong, because that's the random nature. It's not about being wrong. It's about containing that risk when you are wrong, because you're going to be wrong. Most of these strategies, by the way, there's no way, there's no advantage. None of us have an advantage. There's no statistical advantage. So a lot of the trades that you take are 50-50. You can flip a coin, right? So you're going to be wrong. All right. So several months now, I see every single day a new chart showing the bottom is in. Kai said, look, that's what Kai says here, right? That's interesting. Kai says here, a new chart showing the bottom is in every single day, right? And you know what? Those people that are putting that out there, they're looking for attention. They're trying to build hope, right? They want you to go see what they have to say and whatever. I saw someone selling some kind of nonsense thing. This, an oscillator a special oscillator for the bottom of the chart, and the guy only shows 2 trades, right? Only 2 trading steps. You have to show hundreds of trades. But anyway, people are going to buy it because it gives them hope, right? Stop getting sucked into that hope. I agree. Alts are way too much of a gamble. Well, they are. They're highly speculative. It doesn't mean you can't make money with them at some point, just like we've had many people make money with them in the previous run, but it's a lottery ticket, okay? If you don't have, like, if you only have, let's say you have $100,000, if you throw all of that into an altcoin, you're nuts, because, it's a lottery. It's like buying $100,000 worth of lottery tickets. All right. If you only would know how bad it really is, the things I have seen, Kai, I can only imagine just based on the prices of things we've been looking at here. Okay. Hey, Jay. All right. So he's asking about Solana. I'm gonna wrap this up here in a moment. Let's take a look at Solana. Yeah. So we saw a couple of coins that look like this, right? Where they're setting up, they have these buy signals. But like I said, I would not anticipate much potential here because of all the reasons I mentioned earlier. Now look at this. For example, there were a couple of other potential buy signals. There was one back here. Okay. There was also one. Well, this is not exactly the best example, but it tried to go somewhere, right? These things don't go anywhere. They're all just reacting to that Bitcoin situation. So forget these buy signals. These are certainly not the right things to look at if you're looking for swing trades. I mean, Forex has more potential than these things right now. A lot of those Forex pairs we looked at. So I wouldn't give much. I would not put much weight into this. These things, as far as buy signals go, will have more potential when they start clearing resistances, right? Old support. This zone right here is going to act as a resistance zone because you have this resistance right here and you have this resistance over here. Okay, so you're going to have a lot of trouble in here if it can even get there, right? So that may be, if you want to give it a try to see if it gets there, but I just think the potential is so low on these things that, if you get a couple of green candles, until Bitcoin really starts to make some significant progress on the bull side, and until I see some more positive changes in the environment, swing trades are the least type of strategy that I would be thinking for on these altcoins. I mean, if anything, think long-term, right? Think investing if you believe in some of these things, but also keep in mind, half of these are probably going to get cut in half. This thing's at $41. I wouldn't be surprised to see it at $35 or $30, not until things change, right? Rates are going to continue to rise until the Fed says they're not going to raise them anymore. Bond market, certainly not favorable of these things right now. All right. USD. Oh, okay, cool. Chilean peso there. All right, cool. All right, let me jump over here. Let me see if I can answer a couple more, and then I'm wrapping it up. I promise you, I'm going to wrap it up. If I missed your question, again, I apologize. Okay, I looked at Bitcoin. Okay. Sure, we don't need to read white paper to understand a project. No one knows who will pull the rug. Right. BitConnect, Luna. We have seen this. Right. White paper is just an advertising tool. Okay. It gets people excited. It gets investors excited. It's nonsense. You might as well read a commercial script. It's the same thing. Understand, altcoins are a vehicle for developers to get rich off of you. That's what they are, right? So either if you want to make money in an altcoin, be the developer, or be a fake guru and push altcoins on people and get paid to do that. That's it. That's who gets rich with altcoins. Otherwise, they're just a scam. I mean, really, that's the way to look at it. I hate to say that, but that's the truth. They're not investable assets. They're not investment grade assets. They're not. And people want to have hope. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to buy $100 worth of this thing or $1,000, and in a year it's going to be worth billions. No. Okay. How does a garbage coin like whatever compare to a real company like Walmart or Intel or Amazon? They're not investment grade. And even something like Amazon is typically a growth stock and higherly is not a word, but more speculative than a more conservative stock like ExxonMobil. Okay, energy stock. Yeah, energy's been high right now, but they pay you to hold them, right? And they're more conservative. Those are investments. ExxonMobil is not going out of business anytime soon. Okay. All right, banned. Ban you. Okay, here we go. Banned. Another garbage stock, a coin. I remember people used to make a big deal out of banned. Look, they're all in the same position here. Let's go to the weekly. Look at this. How many people bought this thing at the highs? Banned's going to go somewhere this time. No, it's not. Okay. So, like I said before, many of these are at attractive. These are attractive levels for accumulating some inventory. Yes, I will give you that. But that's it. Okay. They can continue lower because the environment doesn't favor them. So what is this thing at right now? $1.69. This thing at one time was at $23. Okay, it's $1.69. How much hope was pumped into people along the way when it had these little temporary rallies? Okay, and you go, oh, it's going to go back to $23. Maybe. There's no way to know. So it can also go to $1 or 50 cents, right? And that's what the environment supports. Keep your eye on the environment. The chart's not going to help us here. Okay, it's a garbage coin. Chart's not going to help us. So, like I said, forget swing trades. I think they're a bad idea for the alts. If you believe in the project, then small investments is all I could say, and be prepared for them to get cut in half. Do you have a link to the YouTube channel? Oh, good question. Not on my TradingView profile. You're going to have to find it. Thank you. Okay, no problem. You want more people to get involved in your streams, you should be more active on Twitter. Okay? Everything happens there. I wrote this on YouTube, but for some reason YouTube, you know why, Alex? I have a filter on there because I got so much spam. I usually get so much spam. I appreciate that. I appreciate the suggestion. Yeah, I know Twitter. Look, I'm antisocial, right? I for one, I hate Twitter. To be honest with you, I hate Twitter, and I don't like the nonsense on there. Is beyond ridiculous. It's just as bad as TikTok. Okay, there are some people that may know some things, but 99% of it is just entertainment. It's just watching a financial cartoon. So I have more important things to do, but I understand. That's where a lot of people are, and that's where people are sharing ideas. I plan to do more with YouTube than I do with Twitter, but thank you for mentioning that, though. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay. That's an old URL, Alex. That thing actually works. Okay. I can't believe that thing actually works. I hear a lot about midterm rally on Twitter. I don't care, but if it seems many, yeah. So again, you know what Twitter is good for? Being a contrarian. Okay, Twitter. If it's on Twitter, then and it's like and there's like a lot of people talking about it. Like I remember when the stock market pulled back. This was before the stock market had peaked, and it was pulling back. And the big word, buy the pullback. Buy the pull. Everyone was saying buy the pullback, and there was a trend on Twitter. Buy the pullback. Don't buy the pullback. If the mindless morons on Twitter are saying buy the pullback, think opposite. That's where I think that information is most valuable. Understand, Twitter is an amplification of the herd mentality. Every mindless moron and their cousin thinks that their opinion's meaningful. Oh, I'm going to talk about my feelings on Bitcoin. And they're just reflecting their feelings. And that's a reflection of the herd. Okay. So astute traders and people that know what they're doing know how to interpret that information. But if you take it at face value, you got problems. In fact, I know that, there were years ago, this is nothing new, years ago, funds or hedge funds or whatever, they had found a way to basically build crawlers on Twitter to gauge sentiment and take the other side of the positions. Because, when all the morons are long, they go short, that kind of thing. They were doing that from Twitter, from Twitter, from tweets. Okay. So again, think contrarian. That's where I think it's most useful. Same for this platform, same for YouTube. All these public platforms where people have like a public place to speak is the worst source of information you could possibly consume. I see these commercials. Case in point, I see these commercials for certain brokers. I know I got to wrap this up, but certain brokers have these commercials, right? And the main feature that they push on the commercials is a community of investors just like you. And we all share information together because we're all going to make money. Understand something here, people. There's no incentive to share valuable information unless you're in the position first. Understand that. There's no incentive. There's people, I'm gonna, I'm kind, and I'm gonna tell people before I buy those 100,000 shares, I'm gonna let everyone know that I'm gonna buy them so they can all front run me and I can buy at a higher price. No, after they're in, well, Tesla's gonna go higher. Buy Facebook because it's gonna go higher. Yeah, thanks for letting me know after you bought the 100,000 shares. Okay, so there's no incentive. That's the way it works. This whole business is based on that. It's deception. So anywhere where there's a community of people sharing information and all that other stuff, and it sounds like a good idea, go in there as a contrarian. Okay? I know I sound pessimistic and all that. Man, he's so negative. I'm just giving you the honest view. Okay? I've seen these forums. I mean, I remember all the way back Forex Factory. Okay? We're talking many, many years ago. It was the same nonsense back then. Although I found some interesting things on Forex Factory. It's a little more educational, but it's the herd mentality. Anything public is a reflection of the herd, and Twitter is notorious for that. Okay. Anyway, man, that was a long rant. Dogecoin. All right, let me see what time it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to answer one more. Let me just see. If I missed your question, I apologize. I stream every Monday, so come back the following Monday. I said I was only going to do this for an hour, and I'm like way over. Okay, because I can't help it. I just talk too much. All right, let me just jump over here. Again, I'm going to skip through a bunch of questions. Okay. From Riga. Hey, welcome. Zelta, good to see you again. Please analyze on BTC dominance. No, that's useless. Can you also not that into Twitter? Right. Okay. Yeah, Twitter is the worst. Twitter is basically the equivalent of texting, like the text version of TikTok. All right, let me just jump over here. I want to answer one more question before I wrap this up. Okay, I get why you hate Twitter. I don't spend more than 10 minutes. Right, okay. ETH is an option in the future financial system, maybe? I had the same question. Is ETH? No, okay, look, Ethereum. All right, I'm going to answer that question, and I'm going to wrap this up. Okay. Ethereum is a leader in the space. It invented the smart contract. Okay, so Ethereum has a place. It's number 2, and I wouldn't call Ethereum a garbage coin unless someone can come along and do it better. But there are coins. Oh, we're going to do better than Ethereum. Blah 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 blah. Right, and they still haven't. Why? Because Ethereum is recognized as number 2. That's just a perception. Just like Bitcoin, are there coins that can do things more efficiently than Bitcoin? Yes, there are. No one cares. Bitcoin is number 1. Okay, so keep that in mind. Yes, it's not rational, but as long as Ethereum maintains that position, I mean, you want to invest in Ethereum, I don't have a problem with Ethereum or even Litecoin, which is the worst of the 3, because again, they're the most recognized, and that brand recognition means something in this space. It really is a marketing problem. Okay, so that does mean something. So I wouldn't call Ethereum a garbage coin. But any copies of Ethereum, yes, garbage coins. So that's what Ethereum has, is they innovated the smart contract and they have the brand recognition. Very simple. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, it's basically the same investment, basically. How could you say that? Ethereum is a lot cheaper. It's the same. If Bitcoin goes somewhere, you think Ethereum is not going to go somewhere, right? Bitcoin has to go somewhere first. Until something dramatically changes, that's the way it is. Okay. So again, I don't pretend to know the future or anything like that. I can only go by the factors that help me weigh expectations now. And as those factors change, I adjust. I look at the macro view, the macro fundamentals, And I ask, are we in a supportive environment or a non-supportive environment? And what do I mean by supportive? I'm talking about speculative money. That's what drives markets crazy. Why were we seeing these coins pushing these highs and all that? And why was Bitcoin at 69K 6 months ago and blah, 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 blah? Why? Because that was the effect of the Federal Reserve keeping interest rates at zero and pumping money into this market to protect, to save the economy nonsense, blah, blah, blah. That's all that was, okay? The Federal Reserve. Now, they've changed their tune and they say the party is over. Okay, they're the ones throwing the party. So if they say it's over and I see the effects of that and I don't see any changes, because the changes, the Fed is not going to announce it, right? They're not going to, okay, we're going to change today and tomorrow you can start buying altcoins again. It's not going to be like that. The changes will be very subtle and the changes will occur in the bond market before the Fed does anything, because the bond market is full of smart money and the bond market sees things in advance, right? So it starts to price things in advance, just like we saw when the bond market when it peaked back in August. It peaked and started to sell off quietly. No one was talking about it. Even the stock market was ignoring it, okay? It took the stock market 4 or 5 months to realize, oh, we have rising rates, okay? But the rates were rising all along. The bond market knew. It was pricing it in, and it knew that the Fed was most likely going to be forced to raise rates. Okay, somehow it knew. So that's when I see those signs, when I see the signs of that turning, then I will get more optimistic. Even though at the time, if I'm getting more optimistic, these altcoins may be pushing lows. Bitcoin may be pushing below a support. And if I see the signs changing, Bitcoin might be along. But you're crazy. Bitcoin's going to 10K. Bitcoin's going to 5K. If the environment starts to change, then I know we'll start to see changes, right? And we'll be in a more supportive environment. That's what I'm looking for. And we're not there. So until we see that, I'm pessimistic. Okay. And that's where I get if you want to call that an opinion, that's where it comes from. And that's where it starts. And then, of course, now, again, I'm talking big picture. I'm talking about invest. I'm talking about swing trades. I'm not talking about day trades. Everything that I just mentioned does not apply to day trades. Day trade is a completely separate mindset, okay? That really has to do with quick thinking, quick adjusting, and all about risk. It's all about risk and how to change with it and taking lots of small losses and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what that's about. I'm not going to get into that here. Okay, anyway, so I'll leave you with that. Again, if I missed your question, I sincerely apologize. Please come back to my stream next Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and ask me again. And I'll answer it again. I've been working on some stuff, so I've been out of touch. I apologize. I will be getting more active soon once I get my work out of the way. But I have to focus on that right now. Okay. So again, I want to thank you all for spending some time with me here today. Again, I apologize if I missed your question. I'm just looking at TradingView here. Okay. All right, no problem. So anyone, again, join me next week. I said that, and that's it. All right. So wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for spending some time with me. Enjoy your day wherever you are in the world, and thank you very, very much for watching.